Please like, share, subscribe if you watch this at a later time. If you'd like to donate to the channel, you can do so via Cash App, Nate's Live, at Cash App, NatesLive. Just give me 1 second to get set up. Poll started. What's up, Austin? I'm going to try something different tonight. I'm going to try and chill out a little bit while we do this. Hope everyone's having a good day. I'm in my house. I'm trying to do it from a little bit more comfortable place tonight. So we're going to look into cryptids. Please like, share, subscribe. We have a poll question. I don't know if people know what cryptids are. Research it. We're going to look into it tonight a bit. Hopefully you guys can hear me. When I stop playing the video, if you guys could just give me a thumbs up in the chat so I know the volume's working, I would appreciate it. I want to see if this is going to work because it's a lot more comfortable for me to do some of these. Yeah, I'm trying to work smarter, not harder, for once. So I will play the video in a second. We're going to start off with a person named Tom Bodger, who allegedly unalived a wolf man in a Manistee National Forest in Michigan, I believe. Yes, Michigan. And it's his firsthand account of what happened. And it's a crazy story. There's another story after it about another encounter with a wolf man that's terrifying as well. There's a couple Wolfman stories I got tonight. We'll see how far they go. I like the Wolfman stories because it's very scary in my opinion. And I want to see what other people think when they hear and see the story. Hey Jay, hey William, thank you guys for checking me out. But I want to see what other people think. A lot of the things I do on this channel is because I like to see what other people think. So that's why I do a lot of the subjects I do, and that's why I do a lot of lives instead of just doing videos like I could. Because I like to see what you guys think. It makes it more interesting. So let's look into Tom Bodger. It's an interview with him talking about his encounter with a wolf man. I thought you said you were from around there, William. I knew one of my subscribers was. So if you guys, when I play this video to start, please let me know if you can hear it, okay? I'm hoping this works out. Oh, this fucking phone. Gonna give me hell already. All right, let's try it again.
My name is Joe. I'm a 6-year Army veteran, and I am a truck driver at this point in my life. I'm 59, and I have a story that I think needs to get out and is important for everybody to know or be aware of, and it's 100%. Oh, you think I can't do anything about it. I've never heard of a cryptid called the Dogman, and I believe that if I had known about this before, I would have done things a little bit easier in the situation, but I would have got through it easier. But I'll go with, my story starts as I was driving a truck in Manistee National Forest, and how long ago? It was 5 years ago, and I was bringing a load of paper from a mill up there, 43,000 pounds, and I was starting to lose air on the way back to the terminal and being stopped for the night because I was home every night, and I was in a day cab, so I was home every night. And I had an air leak. I wanted to fix it before I got too far in. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was gonna get worse, so I stopped to look at it. I found the air leak by the back brake chamber, on the trailer, and it was a cutter, a line partially cut. Had things to fix it, so I wouldn't have to wait on service very long. I'd just be done in a few minutes instead of waiting for hours. So I got out and I was looking around and found it, and I was having a bad feeling when I was underneath the trailer, and I was hearing a vocalization. I didn't know what exactly the sound was. It wasn't natural that I ever heard before, and I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it at the time. But as I was looking, as those sounds and the feeling in my gut was just odd and not normal for me, and I was looking around and I saw some shadowing and a light being blotted out and everything, and this would have occurred between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening in June, and as I said, if I hadn't mentioned before, it was about 5 years ago, and so it would have been daylight, and there was plenty of light to see. It wasn't even nowhere near getting dark yet, and I was seeing shadowing in the wood line where all of the thicket was at. About 30 yards away, I was seeing dark and light in different areas, and I was in bear country, so I knew it was probably a black bear. That's what I perceived it to be at the time. And so when I got the idea that it could have been a black bear, I just got back in the truck because I thought, well, I don't really want to deal with a black bear if it's, you don't know, like rabies could be a thing or anything like that. So, a crazy bear is not a good idea to be messing with. So I got in the truck, checked out my air. My air was good. It held. It took me about not even 5 minutes, but it was really a weird feeling I was getting from the woods that I was near at the time, and I was seeing things that I didn't really give it a lot of thought. I just thought everything was normal still. But when I started driving, got on the road, checking my left side mirror for any traffic. This was on a 2-lane paved road, very lightly traveled, but it is a main road through Michigan in the Manistee National Forest. And as I started going up, I was at the bottom of a hill at a snowplow turnaround. And as I started going up the hill from a dead stop for about a mile, I was looking, as I said, I was looking at my rearview mirror on the left side, on my driver's side, and there was no traffic. I don't even think one car had passed at the time I'd been there, maybe if that. And I started going up the hill, and as I looked in my right side mirror, as I was looking over there, at the same time I saw, that it was darker than it should be, and there was a wolf head the size of my window, and my windows were down, and he was trotting along next to me, and I was about 20, 25 miles an hour at that point, and he was and he was stooping down on two legs, looking down inside of my cabin. I'm at 9 feet tall in my seat. So, as anybody would, I've never heard of a Dogman. I didn't know what it was. The first thing that was going through my mind, time slows down. I just thought this kind of a werewolf-looking creature. I could see his shoulders, his paws were coming up, his hands. Actually, they were hands that were coming up close to my window, onto my door, he's scratching my windowsill and on my handle. I could hear the nails, the claws, and his, So as I was moving along at that speed, I was a million things at the same time. Time slows down, and I thought I was in like an alternate reality or something, because a creature like this don't exist in reality that I've ever known of.
Right.
Even though I have heard of Bigfoot, and I know those to be something that is in our reality, that this is a whole different thing altogether. It's not even close to what a Bigfoot is. It's a lot. It has a lot of sharp teeth, and the teeth on this thing were white. It's like brilliant white. 3-inch long fangs, bottom and top, at least maybe 3.5 or so. Pure black, pointed ears. It had yellow eyes. It was at least 10 feet tall, gazing from how it was stooping and looking in. His yellow eyes were darting all over the place. Maybe he was looking around to see how he could get in, or just assessing the inside of the cab. But he was looking at me, giving me a feeling of, I don't know if it was really, if you would call it like a mind speak, like some people might describe, but I think it was some communication through his eyes because of the intelligence that was there. It wasn't an animal look. And this all took place in 15, 20 seconds at the most. There was a lot going on in all of this description. I was just taking it all in as time had slowed down for me. And
how did it look on his face? Tell me how it looked. Did it look good? Did it look like an animal? Did it look evil?
Well, how this creature looked was mad and determined to get to me, and he was sneering, and he wasn't making any noises vocally at the time. I never heard anything, any vocalization or growling, but the looks he was giving me and what I was reading from his body language and his sneering at me and the intelligence in his eyes was telling me that, I'm here to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's kind of what popped into my head. And there was so many things that going through my mind at the same time. I thought about trying to roll up the window. There's a lot of things, but I'm like, that isn't going to help me, because it's just not. Even if I did, and I couldn't even find the little levers to pull, the power windows even. It was like I was already shaking, and just my adrenaline was kicking in, and I was just all over the place mentally. But I did have enough faculties to keep the truck on the road, keep it going up the hill. I didn't even really think of my gun until I got this idea in my mind, what was coming across from what I thought was a werewolf, that, you think I can't do anything about it? Well, watch this, watch this. You think I can't? And then I had a gun strapped right here. It was a 45 Colt, and I just pulled it like this and shot twice, and he went down. Instantly went down. I was looking at him as he was sliding into the weeds, and his head was flopping around, his legs and his arms were stiff. I knew it was a brain shot from hunting. He didn't know what hit him. It was definitely a brain shot. and I was at almost point blank range, so I'm pretty sure I got him through the eye orbit, or, pretty sure, because that head was thick, and I think that would be a glancing blow with any other place on the skull, because his head was at least the size of a boar grizzly, if not even. I think it was bigger, but his head looked huge because of the mane, like a lion's mane. He was solid black, but from maybe the middle of where his ears were until it went back to his shoulders, it was as thick, if not thicker, than a lion's mane. And everything on this animal was black. His skin on his hands were black, where there wasn't hair. His claws were black. Everything was black on him except his teeth and his eyes. And
human-looking hand, right? Or
his human-like hands. I saw those really close up, and I would say they were about the size of my steering wheel if they were splayed out. And that is really big, a huge, probably 14 inches across, probably at least, at least that big. His claws were at least 3 inches long, and they were extremely thick, about like cigar thickness, I would say.
I know this story sounds crazy and laughable, but there's a lot of stories that all sound close to the same. And this story gets really weird coming up. Please like, share, subscribe to Nate's Live Talk.
Teeth, the canine teeth were about, I would say, a thumb thickness at the top, and down to a point at about 3.5 inches. And after that happened, I saw all the carnage that was going on in my rearview mirror after he went down, and I knew he was dead. I knew it was a kill shot. I've seen it punting plenty of times when I've gotten a brain hit, and I knew he was dead. But I wanted to make sure if I was I didn't even know what was going on. I was seriously thinking I'm in an alternate reality at this point. I just was, and I was, going through. I wasn't really panicked, but it's the scariest I've ever been in my life. I mean, nothing even comes even. It's in the stratosphere compared to anything else in my life.
You're probably in shock.
Yeah, I was in shock, but I was still had enough. I had still had enough faculties left to control my truck, to think about I just killed this thing. If this really happened, and I'm not didn't just lose my mind, or I just dreamt this, I don't know what just happened, but I'm going to turn around, and if this thing is still laying there, I know where there's a turnaround up here about a mile or a mile and a half. After he went down, I just knew, after all these things that was going on in my head, that I wanted to make sure in my own mind that this really occurred, and that if this thing is still laying there, this werewolf is still laying there, that's about 10 foot tall, and it looks like it weighs about 1,000 pounds. It's like the size of a horse, at least a good sized horse. And because I could see the whole body as it fell, and as it was sliding and knocking down weeds off the gravel and dirt that it was into, and then it turns into woods about 20 feet in. And I saw his feet, I saw his legs. His body was like human-like. Shoulders, had biceps looked like bowling ball size, muscles.
Jack Diesel.
He was human.
And in all the stories I've researched for this, just about, the fucking wolfmen are all cock diesel. I swear to God. The next story coming up after this guy is fucking very, very similar. And it just makes me wonder. And when you see these people talk about it, they look fucking shook. They look really fucking shook. The next guy you're going to see the interview on, he looks fucking terrified telling the story. If he's not lying, he's the fucking best actor ever.
Looking all the way down until we got to a longer tail. He had a tail which was about 5 feet long, I would say. He was about half the length of his body. It looked like to me, and his feet looked like dog feet or wolf feet, but a little bit longer than like a dog paw would be, more round. These looked a little bit long, but still the same basic look to it, just maybe dinner plate size or something, instead of, like a dog being about maybe the size of of maybe half of your hand, a good size dog, half of your hand. This would be probably the size of a dinner plate. So after I had fired 2 shots, as I was looking at this creature fall and slide through the weeds, plow the weeds down, I was deciding that at that point that I knew it was dead, but I wanted to make sure. So I turned around about a mile up the road where I knew there was a turnaround that I could turn a 53-foot trailer around, and I wanted to make sure that I killed it for sure. Even though I knew, I just had to know more about what just occurred, other than even though it was dead, I'd run it over with my truck and it would be dead. I knew it was going to damage the truck too, because it was big, and if you hit something like that, it's going to tear your truck up. But I didn't care. I just wanted to make sure it was dead, and I could see for myself what really just happened there. So as it was coming back,
this is what makes this story scary to me. Mark, you might be onto something, but if this fucking really happened, man, God only knows what's out there in the universe. Please like, share, subscribe to Nate's Live Talk.
Back down the hill, I'm looking right where that werewolf was laying, and you can't miss it. It would have been a big black lump the size of a horse laying there. Well, it was gone now, and this is maybe at the most 5 minutes after, by the time I got back to this point. So as I was trying to see what was going on, there was a Jeep parked right next to where that creature was laying, and you could see all of the weeds that were smashed down, plowed over by this creature. And as I was approaching, there was 2 people there looking around in the same spot where it had laid, and I was concerned about these people being in a spot where it's dangerous. And I stopped and I asked why they were there, what are they doing, if they needed help. And there was a man and a woman there, and they were just looking at me a little bewildered, and they just said, well, we were just stopped. There was something interesting. A couple of bears were fighting or something in this area, something like that, they told me. And they just thought they were looking for that, and they don't, of course there was nothing there at that point, but you could see where there was some activity, quite a bit had just happened there. You could tell from the weeds, and the weeds that were knocked over going into the wood line.
Looked like something was dragged up through there?
Yeah, something big was dragged up through into the wood line, into the thicket, gone. And so they give me this story like they were just watching a few bears playing around or fighting each other and whatever that was. But I was concerned about, at the time, I didn't give that a lot of thought, but I was worried about them being around outside where I just knew what I just did. I thought anyway what just occurred, and this thing must have been just happened. So what I did is I told him, as I was talking to him, I just told him that I didn't want to let them know that I'd just been there, because to sound crazy in that what I just did, but I thought that as I was talking to him, there was some word. We exchanged some words, and it kind of everything was alluding to. They were telling me that they were just trying to observe a few bears that were over there wrestling around or fighting or something. But I knew what had just happened, and they were probably just trying to tell me that they thought they had just seen something different, so they wouldn't think each other's story was crazy. So we just exchanged, our goodbyes. After that, I just said, well, I'll just see you later, and there was nothing more to that. But as I was sitting there, I did notice a few odd things. I was noticing their vehicle because it did seem a little bit strange to me that, one of the things that I did mention as I was talking to them, and they said there was a couple of them there, and I said, and as they said that I said, so there was two of them, and then they said, yes, yeah, and I'm like, well, that just told me that the one I saw wasn't the only one there, the one that I shot. That was another thing that surprised me, that there was more than one, possibly two or three, the way it sounds, at least, there, or a pack, who knows, but I only saw the one, so after I said, goodbye to them, and that they just said they didn't need any help or anything, and so I was just thinking about all of this on the way back, and I was in shock. I was really in shock for a good while and I was still driving the truck, and I didn't even know how I got back, and I shouldn't have been driving a truck in that state of mind, but it's just the way it is. I wasn't going to stay around or park anywhere near there. I'm getting home, so.
So Joe, how long did this, from beginning where you saw the creature to the end where you shot it, how long did that last?
The most, it was 15 to 20 seconds.
Okay, so when did you say the whole encounter lasted? You're going to edit me out, right? Mm-hmm. So just say the whole encounter lasted 15 to 20 seconds, and that was it. It was over.
Yeah. Well, yeah. After all of these, through all of this encounter, the whole encounter lasted from when I saw the creature until I had shot it, and it went on the ground. It was no more than 20 seconds. But the whole encounter really lasted a little longer because of turning around and the people. It was probably a total of 10 to 15 minutes from front to back of the whole encounter by the time I turned around, and the exchange with the two people that I talked to that stopped where the creature went down. But I would say 10 to 15, 20 seconds tops for the encounter, and 10 to 15 minutes for the encounter front to back, for the total encounter altogether. So that is it in a nutshell, really. I mean, after that, I did have, when I did start coming down from my adrenaline as I was driving, I did notice I was wet, and that was something that had never happened in my life either, and I didn't even know this at the time, and
he pissed himself.
The most terrifying thing that I think anybody could ever go through, worse than even any combat situation, because at least you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
there,
that's
and
true. Make you wonder.
The reality that you can deal with this is I didn't even know what was going on. It was a horror show, in my mind. I didn't know. It was really bad, and so I had PTSD, as I think it would be a thing anybody would experience, that this would have that. And I'm a lot better now. I had nightmare nightmares for a good 6 months to a year. On and off, it was getting less prevalent as time went on, and I don't have them anymore after 5 years. I never have them, or if I do, I don't ever remember them. And so I'm in a lot better shape, and I thought it was important to know that I'm mentally more capable of getting this information out, that I should do that at this point. So that's why my story's out now. It just took me this long to get with the right people that I trust.
That's what makes me wonder. This guy has PTSD from it. He's visibly shaken. And you're gonna hear some more stories. The government ends up contacting him.
Trusted, and that I know have my back and are there with me 100%.
Joe, so tell us, did anything ever happen to you in consequence of you killing this thing?
Well, yeah, that was another thing. After I got quite a bit better from the nightmares and everything, I had a family member tell me I should get this out to the public, that there's information in my story that that's not out there anywhere else that we're aware of, and that I need to put it out there somewhere. So I did that. I talked to one podcaster that's popular in the cryptid space, and I didn't want to be out there public, so he took notes and he narrated my story about 4 years ago. And after that, it wasn't, maybe it was about I think it would have been about 3 months, not even 3 months later, I was detained at a scale house by state police to wait for federal authorities to come and talk to me, or had some business with me of some kind. So after waiting for around there for a few hours, a couple of federal officials came up to me and told me that, in a very intimidating way, that when they first showed up, that they were very, very angry. The both of them, they were intimidating and angry, and I almost thought they were going to cuff me, but they didn't. I didn't know what was going on, and they said, "You killed one of our assets, and this is how things are going to go down from this point on." And I at first I didn't know what they were talking about, but then it just popped into my head. Well, the only thing I killed in the last year or so was that creature, and that these federal officials are now jumping on me about that, and that just popped into my head. So this is something that is their property, and they were mad that I killed it, and they were trying to get me to stop talking about it, because they probably knew who I was because of my narration story.
What exactly did they tell you? Can you remember?
Well, yes, and I mean verbatim, I don't remember
Just
everything.
tell us what you can.
But I do remember them saying, we can do a lot of things to make sure you don't talk about this anymore or discuss it with anybody. And if you can, as a truck driver, you can't keep a job if you have a dirty drug test. A dirty drug test could happen. Monetarily things can happen, and they did shut my bank account off, but
Wow.
so that was, I think they were flexing to show that they can. So I did. I shut up. When I found out they could do this, I shut down and just shut it off up until recently, because I didn't want all that smoke. I just didn't want it, and I didn't think that at the time I had a different outlook on it than I do now. I had more time to assess it in a way that's, I think, healthier. And and this is another thing, while I was there, they took my phone. They knew I had a gun on me, because I'm a concealed carrier. and they took my gun because they said, we need your gun and your phone. They just knew you have a gun. They give me a gun and your phone. So, and so they give me my phone back, and the thing is they didn't give me my gun back, and I said, well, how am I going to get my gun back? They told me, well, we'll let you know. Don't call us, we'll call you, type of thing, and you'll be lucky if you ever get it back, but we'll let you know how to get it back when we say, they told me in so many words I probably will not get it back, but I still don't have it. But the thing is
Are you worried about what they might do with your gun and try to blame it on you?
yeah, well,
Say that.
yeah, that could be, that's something that, because they're trying to cover up and hide these creatures, they intimidate you, and they could probably use my gun against me in some kind of a framing situation, and I realized that. I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought they were, just being, jerks about it, and just because they could. Well, what I do know is when the feds pulled, I know they were feds because the car that they pulled up in was black as well. It was a different, that Jeep that I mentioned was also government plated. So I didn't think about it at the time, but I think it was government plated. I do remember it was a white plate. Now, at the time, I didn't pay a lot of attention, but going back in my mind, I'm pretty sure it was a government plate that was white. So, but when they did stop me and pull me into the scale house and show up, they were in a black vehicle. And I did look at that. It was government plates. I mean, U.S. government, white plates on it. So it was obvious they were federal officials of some kind. But I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea until they walked up and said, you killed one of our assets, and we're going to hear to tell you that, we don't want you to talk about what happened with that again, because we can really make your life miserable. So, and they showed me that they could, and like I said, they took my gun, they gave me my phone back, and I think they're using the gun as maybe a way to use as leverage or some kind of nefarious framing, if they deem necessary at some point. That's the only thing that I think the reason why they would retain my weapon. So I don't know what to think about it any other way other than I do think it's important that the reason I think they do this is because these are something that they mentioned it was an asset, so this is probably another tool in their toolbox for military operations of some kind. And if they don't keep it under wraps, it won't be a useful tool anymore for them or whatever. But they keep people quiet, and when they do encounter these things, I think I need to get this out there to as many people as possible that they know this information, so you can take it for what you want, take away from it what you believe or what you don't want to believe, but at least you heard it, and if it happens to you, you got something to fall back on if it happens to you and you don't even think it's a real thing. But I'm here to tell you, it's probably in your best interest to take heed to this truth that I'm trying to put out. I said the tail was about 5 foot long, about half the length of his body, and it had to be at least 10 feet. It was a massive creature.
Just big yellow eyes. Did you say it had a black iris in the middle of the eye?
Yeah, no, but it did have a black iris in the middle of a yellow eye, and I would say they were at least golf ball size eyeballs. At least they're a little bigger. If you imagine the size of a skull or a wolf head that big, that you think of grizzly bear, at least they're bigger head with it, and then it just looks so bulky muscular, bulky too. It wasn't lanky. It was real muscular.
Describe the legs, Joe.
The legs
in
were
detail. Yeah.
the legs. Well, they were human type thighs. You know, they were really thick, muscular thighs. From the knee down, looked like a dog or a wolf. From the knee down, it was thick. It was thick thighs, real. You know, like human shape, similarly human. But at the knee, it changed into like a total dog or a wolf leg, with double joints going one way and the other way. You know.
So there was no human cat muscle.
No.
Like just
No.
a hawk there.
Yeah, just a hawk. Yeah. And then, like I did mention, that the feet looked like dog or canine, regular canine feet. Weren't, you know, they weren't another pair of hands, like, of course, but they were longer looking than a normal canine that we know of, you know. And I would say they were size of a good, or maybe at least 12 inches around, I would say, you know, the feet, like that, you know, just, and a little longer looking. They, for some reason, I could see that they weren't quite normal canine feet, but they were almost just a little longer, it looked like to me.
And so the head looked like a German. You said the head looked like a German Shepherd, other than the lines like vein going across, and had a shorter muzzle.
A shorter muzzle. Then I would say it looked 90% maybe like a German Shepherd or wolf, but with a little bit shorter snout, wider and shorter in scale to the skull, and the ears looked pointed with tufts of hair on top, and the eyes really big. It was squinting, you know, in the wind and a little bit because of the wind and everything rushing past the truck, and it was right there. I mean, it was just nothing I could do about it not getting in the truck, though. You know, that was my biggest concern, but it didn't. I didn't let it in the truck either, you know. So, but I think if I hadn't done what I'd done, it would have been over for me. If I hesitated much longer, at least, then, you know, or I didn't have the gun at all. And the gun that the feds eventually did take from me was a different gun altogether. I wasn't carrying the gun that I used so I still have the gun that I shot the Dogman with. The extent of my situation with my Dogman experience, and it's 100% the truth. And I feel that if even if you don't believe what I'm saying is truthful, it might be something you can draw on in the future in case you ever do have an experience. If you watch this and you see something that you can fall back on from just hearing about it, which is something an advantage that I didn't have, you know. That would be at least an advantage that I never had. I think I would have got through this a little easier if I'd at least known about these things even existing, or even heard of it. At least I would have probably been through this mentally a little sooner, or maybe not as bad even. But so take away what you can with this, and I think it's good for future posterity, for people that don't even believe that this happened. I just know it's something good for people to draw on, if and when they ever do.
I had the chance to meet Joe myself last month during Josh Turner's conference, where he told me this story in person along with Tony Merkel, and we were both blown away. He comes off as very quiet, very genuine, but you could tell as he's retelling this account that he's terrified.
Please like, share, subscribe to Nate's Live Talk. Michelle Burns, what's up? Yeah, he shot a doc. That's right. Allegedly. What do you guys think? You think he's full of crap? You think he's telling the truth? I'd love to hear what the chat thinks about that one. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't. I got another story about Dogman. They're kind of long, but they're good. And I think when you hear this other one, it might incline you to believe it a little more. I got two more at least. One of them actually has kind of a depiction of one. But I've seen a lot of shit on this, so it makes me wonder if it's true or not. And if you guys want to check out any other stuff like this, you can look at What Lurks Beneath. He does a really good job. That's the name of the channel. Puts a lot of content on this stuff. People find him reputable. That's why when I show you guys some of this stuff, I use some of his material because I think he's a good source. And I don't think all these people would go tell him if they didn't trust him. And I find it interesting too, the other places they've found these things, allegedly, are all kind of close to each other. There was one in Wisconsin. There was one in Michigan. There was one in Ohio. So they're all kind of in the northern middle part of the country, which is a little odd. But I'm going to show you a quick one about two cousins that ran into one in Wisconsin that gives a bit of a depiction on what this thing may look like. And it's about 10 minutes long. And then I will show you the other video that's much longer that I think is one of the scariest stories I've ever heard. And something about the way the guy tells it makes it believable. Maybe I'm just a dumb Pollock, but I find it very interesting. Thank you guys for checking out the channel. If you're new, please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate it. We look into all types of things. Tonight we're going down a rabbit hole with some cryptids. I would like to do more than Dogman, but I have quite a bit of shit on Dogman that I think people will enjoy. So we're going to watch at least some more time on it, at least another hour on Dogman before we jump to something else. And then I think we're going to look into Mothman, which is a crazy story. There's books on it. Point Pleasant, I believe, is where it occurred. I think a bridge collapsed down there around the time he was seen. Every time they see Mothman, messed up stuff happens, allegedly. So give me a minute to get this set up. What does the chat think? You guys wanted to say anything before we get going with the next one? Please don't be bashful. You're more than welcome to chat it up. I like to see what other people think. That's why I do this as well. It's not just about me. I like to see other people's theories, if they believe it or not. Let's check out our poll. 59% of people believe in cryptids. 41% don't. So this is an encounter with a Wisconsin Dogman, allegedly. Fuck AutoZone. You're messing up our story. Fuck AutoZone. Quit selling that Chinese shit.
Are you sure it's...
Hell no. Hell no. I wouldn't want to run into that motherfucker. That's crazy, Eric. Hopefully it just fell. Hopefully it ain't no spooky shit. So that was pretty close to where the last one occurred. Now this guy, Matt Gates, I think his name is, if I'm not mistaken, he's got one of the scariest stories I've ever heard in my life. And when you see him tell it, it gets when you see him tell his story, as scared as he gets and emotional as he gets, it's hard not to believe, in my opinion. Please like, share, subscribe to Nate's Live Talk. Thank you for joining me this evening. Nice to switch it up. I can't do politics all the time. Today, the trolls were out. My goodness. I'm actually looking forward to the election being over, so we could get back to doing more fun shit. So here's Matt Emch. That's his name. Matt Emch. Mattemch.
This thing stood up on two legs. His officers had gotten calls about these things. He had two officers that had seen it and that he knows all about it. He gave him the implication that it at least had killed one of those two people. I am sweating. I'm sorry. Grabbed him. I said, listen to me. I said, you are going to come with us or we're going to leave you here to die.
Dude, your story is... Woo!
It's
affecting me, man. I'm like, I'm all choked up. This interview is easily the most frightening one that I've ever done from here.
So my name is Matt Emch. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. When I was about 14 years old, me and three of my friends had this experience in the old steel mills down in Youngstown, Ohio. If you go to Google old steel mills of Youngstown, Ohio, you will see, specifically if you bring up the blast furnace and you put blast furnace, old steel mills, Youngstown, Ohio, it'll literally bring up a picture of the blast furnace area where this experience happened. And, I grew up in Youngstown. I live in a suburb of Youngstown now, so still in the area. My friends and I would just basically go everywhere, and anywhere on our bikes or walking. And one of the things that we like to do is we like to frequent the steel mills because one of my best friends who was there the day of this experience literally lived right across the street from the entrance to these steel mills. So on Route 422 or Youngstown Warren Road in Youngstown, if you look that up, you'll see it's right across from the steel mills. So his house overlooked Youngstown Warren Road or Route 422. You would basically cross the street across from his house, jump over a fence, run across the highway, which was 422, and then we would enter into this area of the old steel mills. And we had to go down a number of different areas to get down there. It took us about a half an hour to get to the blast furnace area, where we basically liked to hang out the most. We checked out the whole area, but we kind of made this one building in the blast furnace area our quote unquote like home base. And this was a 4-floor building that would, if you walked to the inside of it, you could look up.
That's the building where this occurred. That's the building where this supposedly happened.
And you could see, if you were in the middle of the room, each floor. So if you were up on, say, the 3rd floor, you could walk into the middle of the room. There would be a half concrete wall, and you could look down to the bottom floors, or you could look up to the 4th floor. And it was just an old, rundown, dilapidated building, and it had open walls on the 1st floor. And this is important to the situation. What it had is on the north, south, east, and west walls, it was open. So we found inside of this place these steel. Basically, the easiest way I could describe it is if you look at old, gladiatorial games where they had the shields that kind of wrapped around the shoulders to protect them. That's how these things were shaped. They had hundreds of them in there. So what we did is we took them and we lined them up next to each other, and we made makeshift walls out of this metal, whatever they were. And we made 2 rows. That's as high as we could make it. And we did that, number one, because, it was the time, the late 80s in Youngstown, Ohio was a very dangerous time. We had some monikers for Youngstown that they've gotten over the years that aren't real, something to be proud of. Per capita, it was basically considered the highest murder rate of any city in America at that time, and a lot of gang violence, a lot of mafia things still going on, especially in Youngstown. And we didn't want to be down there when something was going on and people to see us. We didn't also want the people that worked in the steel mill that still to this day works. There were a lot of different reasons in Youngstown to be careful down there. We would go down there a lot of times armed. We would have, guns. We were 14 years old, but we did do it because, you could run into homeless people. You could run into mafiosa that really were down there at that time. You could run into gangs that were doing whatever down there, hiding things or getting rid of bodies, which they found down in those areas over the years. But the thing that really made us most nervous were packs of wild dogs. And, wild in cities that have areas that are not frequented by people anymore, you get, packs maybe 6 to 10 dogs in them, and they are not your, hey, Fido, come here, let me pet you. They will attack, they will kill. And I believe, in this 2-year period that this happened, when I was 14 and my friends and I went down there and had this experience, there were 2 homeless people that were mauled. Those will come into play as well with this experience. It was unfortunately called Murder Town, USA during this time. Per capita, Youngstown, Ohio during different times has had high rates of murder, and that's not something you want for your city or that, but unfortunately that's how it was when I was growing up and my friends were. So we were just very cautious about what we did. We never shot anything or animals or anything. We just would bring guns down there because we just wanted to protect ourselves. And the guns were pretty sorry anyway. We would have, my one buddy had an old 25 that the pin would pop out of it every time it shot. Another guy had a little 22, and I would gank my dad's 38 out of his closet. He had an old cowboy boot in the back of his closet, and he thought he was being slick. Well, Dad didn't wear cowboy boots, so what's that doing in there? There's just one of them. So there was a 38 in there, and we would take it and just have it there for protection. And the time that this happened was we had just gotten out of 8th grade. It was the summertime, so it was really nice and warm. And you know how it is being a boy, Josh. You get let loose from school and you just go buck wild. And
back when kids didn't just sit on the internet all fucking day.
When your friends just want to have fun, and we would go down there, we would break things and we would just investigate everywhere. And if our families knew at that time, because they did find out, if they knew at that time we were going down there, they would not have been happy. It was a very dangerous place. You have an old dilapidated steel mill that was utilized, during the strong period of the United States steel industry. And now this was rusted buildings and rebar hanging out where concrete used to be. And, we would be in this one building I was talking about earlier that we frequented as our home base. And once in a while, a big chunk of concrete would fall from the top of, floor, which 4 floors, that's a hefty drop.
Oh yeah.
So we had to be careful. And, going up the stairs, say from the first floor to the second floor, there was an area where maybe 4 stairs were missing, and we kind of had to hop over it, and there was just rebar hanging out, and that'll come into play as well. And this was a big building, like I said, 4 floors. It had giant concrete pillars in each corner of the room, which also will come into play with description of what was going on when it happened. And These things went obviously from underground to the very top of the building, and they were probably, I'd say, I don't know, 4 to 5 feet wide and as tall as the building was. So we would have giant fires in the center of this room. There was no shortage of materials that we could find to burn. There was always pallets and things like that. And the night that we had the experience, we had a giant fire going, and we were inside. And it's funny, I've heard a lot of experience with cryptids over time, and you hear people kind of in mindsets when things happen. And I recall before we heard what we heard, we were all kind of just staring at the fire, and no one was talking. And just kind of how you get when you stare at fires, everybody just kind of stares at it and you kind of drift away. We heard this pack of wild dogs, so what we outside, you'd walk out and there was a concrete kind of, I don't know, just outcropping that the stairs had fallen away. And that was another reason why we liked this building, because nothing could run up these stairs. So we had to hop up and roll in to get into this building. So again, no dogs could get up there, and we liked that. And we heard them, and we just kind of were like, okay, let's go outside and see what's going on. We're standing out on this outcropping and we're watching, and a pack of 6 or 7 dogs run by, and they paid no attention to us at all. And right across from this building was a railroad track. And if you, again, Google blast furnace, old steel mills, Youngstown, Ohio, you'll see the picture of exactly what I'm talking about. The railroad tracks right in front of the buildings. And then just beyond them, there would be giant piles of coke, which is basically an ingredient in the steel making process. It's just something that they utilize to make it. And they had huge piles of these things. I don't even know how high. I would say at least 15, 20 feet high, mile each way. So as far as the eye could see, it was just piles of this material. And these dogs ran right in front of our building and made a quick left. They ran across the railroad tracks. They went up the one side of the pile of coke and then down the other side. And immediately we start hearing fighting. We assumed that the dogs were fighting with each other. We had no idea what was going on because they were on the other side. It was dark. We couldn't see. All we could hear is dogs attacking. After maybe 2 or 3 seconds, we started to realize, no, they're not fighting with each other. They're fighting with something else, because what came over the top of these dogs biting and barking was a very loud and deep growl, roar that basically let out, which every one of us, our eyes open, we're like, oh my God, there's something over there. They're attacking something else. And within a few seconds, we start hearing yelping. These dogs are yelping in pain. And then what happened next was when all of the craziness started. And what happened was 2 dogs, one after another, come literally flying over the top of this pile of material. They were thrown, like somebody had grabbed them and thrown them with great force. The first one, I'll always remember, it was upside down and its butt and tail were facing us. So it definitely didn't jump. It was thrown and it hit the ground and rolled, and it got up and limped away. Another one came and it hit the top of this, and material went everywhere, and it hit the ground. And I always remember this because, I'm a dog lover, I'm an animal lover. It had a huge gash from its shoulder all the way to its midsection. It looked like something had flayed open the dog. And it was still alive. It was bleeding all over. It got up and it ran away. And, I always remember, I was like, oh my God, I hope that dog lives. I don't think it did. It was very, very brutal the way that it looked. And then a couple more come thrown over it. And then the rest of the pack came running. And they all went back the way they came, which was to our left, in the way that we would come into this area. And we're watching them run away. There's blood on the ground. We're hearing them yelp as they run away. And as we're watching in just complete disbelief, one of my friends, I remember him like touching me on my back. He was to my left and behind me. And he goes, guys, what is that? What is that over there? And we all simultaneously looked to our right. And what ended up crawling up to the top of the pile of this material was, quite honestly, something that and I say this all the time and I'll always say it, it was so big that it looked fake. It was the biggest animal I have ever seen to date. My friends agreed. There were 4 of us again. So we were all able to talk about this for years after this experience. 2 of them are gone, unfortunately. They passed away. 1 is left. And, we always talk about this with each other, or we did. And my buddy that's still here, we still to this day talk about it. And it was basically just a gigantic wolf-looking creature that was on all 4s. We started comparing over time what we could say the size of this thing looked like. And the easiest thing that we found once we started looking at pictures of things, and because, this was in the late 80s, we didn't have the internet and all that. So we're looking at magazines and books, and the shape and the size of this thing was the closest to a polar bear, but it was as big as any polar bear or bigger. And it had the telltale shape of a polar bear, where if you have a say like a Kodiak grizzly bear, it's like a walking boulder, just giant and massive and just boom, boom. This was very sleek, long-limbed, very lengthy, more muscular instead of just big and bulky and long. And it crawled to the top of this pile, and it was watching where the dogs had gone, and it hadn't paid any attention to us. It hadn't noticed us at that point. And what it did next, I've always said this, some people might find this amusing. It was not amusing at all.
Right.
Because of what happened. So this dog was watching them. It was looking in the direction they left, and it lifted its leg and it did its business. And immediately we knew it was a male because of what it did. And what was scary about it was the force at which, when it started urinating, at which it hit this pile of this material it was standing on, pieces just started going up in the air. You could hear the stream. It was like a hose that just been turned on. And I stepped back. I was like, whoa, that.
Well, I guess Wolfman got a big crank. Fuck. What do you guys think so far? You think it's bullshit? You think he's telling the truth? Please like, share, subscribe. Let's check out the rest of the story.
That's not normal. It's just so massive, and it was so strong of the stream that this thing let go. I started feeling real fear because, any second it's going to notice us. And just as I'm thinking about that, my buddy who had been to the back and noticed it first started to stumble backwards and fell into that metal makeshift wall that I had been describing to you. And what happened. It made that telltale sign of metal on concrete, and immediately this thing snaps its head and it looks at us, and we all froze, because immediately the first thing that jumped out to all of us was not eye shine. It was as bright as there was a power source coming from inside of this creature. There was a yellow, amber, kind of orange, bright light that was coming from its eyes. And that's where we all were drawn. That's where I was drawn immediately. And it was so big that you could see the anatomy of the eyes. So you could see the pupil. You could see, each distinct circular shape of the eye. If you look, if we're just being general about the shape of the eye, you have multiple circles in your eyes. You could see each one of them we are probably about 20, 25 feet from this animal. So close, but far enough to where we realized the size of it was just so abnormal and so scary that, you know, we were just froze. And it started looking at each one of us, and you could tell which one of us it looked at, because its eyes again were just so big, and they were just lit up like Christmas trees. And it looked at each one of us. It looked down the line. There were 4 of us, and when it looked at me, it felt like it was going through me. And what happened next was this thing did something so alien and so insane that it finally took us to things that we had been taught are myths, things that are just only made for movies or comic books or magazines, Fangoria, or this thing stood up on 2 legs. And it was already so massive. Again, it looked fake. It was just like, this can't be real. I'm sleeping. I'm going to wake up anytime. I have to wake up. But we were awake, and it stood up, and it was twice as big as it was. And it was just so crazy. And we had entered into now everything we've been taught about creatures and werewolves and anything like that are fake. Now we're looking at a real one in front of us. And again, the thoughts going through my head, and I asked my friends later, like, did you guys feel like, you know, we were sleeping, like you were dreaming? And they said similar things, like, you know, yeah, like I felt like I was going to wake up at any moment, but then we just didn't. And I kept having this sense of, okay, this is strange, you know, this can't be real. And it stood up, and it was twice as big as it was, you know, height-wise. It had the dog-shaped legs. I remember immediately the thing that stood out to me immediately was, you know, it had a man's shape to it, but you always hear people say, oh, well, it was man-shaped. Well, you can't compare what we saw to a man. There's no man that was built like this. Its arms were so long, that's the first thing I noticed, that they went past its knees almost to its ankles. It had hands that looked very similar, and I got a good look at them a little bit later, and I'll touch on it, but it had hands that looked like a raccoon, like the hands of a raccoon, just giant, huge hands, and massive, just build, muscles everywhere. It did not have long, scraggly hair. I would say the hair was probably 1 inch long at most. It was actually very, almost like it was groomed. It was very tight. You could see every muscle. It was as black as any black I've ever seen. It was almost like so black that it was darker than the night blackness behind it. It just stood out. It was so dark. And all you could see are these eyes shining. And it had, you know, huge lats, huge biceps. I remember specifically when I noticed the legs, the quads on it, you could see, you know, any bodybuilder's quads, you know, you see the separation of the muscles and everything. You could see that. You could see, but it was so much bigger than any human being you have ever seen. And then what it did was it growled, but it was almost like a growl and a roar at the same time. And the way it came out is, I've seen things over the years. You know, we've heard about infrasound, about how tigers and lions, and, you know, they will use infrasound to stun prey. It can actually jiggle the insides and the organs. And that's what I felt. And that's what my buddies felt. I've seen recordings of actually crocodiles and alligators when they do their kind of growl in the water and water bounces off. And it was similar to that, but animal-like, wolf-like, tiger-like, something of a combination of that. And it went through us all. I remember when it hit me, I felt it go through my chest. And the first thing I felt is I felt like I was going to go down on my knees. My legs from the hips all the way down to my ankles, my calves, everything felt so weak that when you have dreams when you're being chased by something and you can't run, that's what it felt like. But I couldn't move. I thought I was going to go down on both my knees. I was kind of bent over, but I was still looking at it. My other friend that was to my immediate right later told me that was what he felt similarly. Two of our other friends actually were completely bent over. One was dry heaving, said he felt like he was going to pass out. The other said he felt like he was going to throw up. Something's wrong. What's going on? And it takes a couple steps towards us. And I think the steps of it, moving towards us and how far it moved after it took two steps towards us snapped everybody back into reality. And I remember my buddy right over my left shoulder who had noticed it first, he turned and ran into the building and we followed suit.
Hell yeah.
Not quickly, as fast as we could. And we just headed up the stairs. We ran to the third floor. I don't know why we went to the third floor. We just did. There was really no way out of there. And I need to explain that too. So going up to the fourth floor, you would be stuck on the fourth floor. You could go out to the roof area. There was a short set of stairs that would take you to the roof. On the outside from the third floor was the fire escape. The fire escape only went from the third floor up to the roof because the second floor on down had broken away and fallen down and was laying in a heap on the ground. All of the stairs were all twisted up in metal and everything. And so we really had nowhere to go. We were standing on the third floor, and my one friend who had noticed it first was going basically postal. He starts losing it. He starts crying and screaming. And I remember, I'll always remember this. I was always a big kid, and I grabbed him out of fear. And I'm starting to sweat right now because I'm thinking about this. It always brings me back. I grabbed him and I put my hand around his mouth and I grabbed him so hard that I lifted him up the floor. His feet were hanging, and he's still, muffled screams, and we all are screaming at him. You got to shut up. It's going to come in here. It's going to hear you. You have to be quiet. I was using choice words, of course. Finally, he started, gasping for air, and I put him down, and, I looked at him and we're all, let you go. Are you going to be quiet? We let him go, and just as we let him go, he takes a deep breath. You hear a thump. The building vibrates, and then you hear the telltale sign of basically nails on concrete. And we all knew what that meant. I knew immediately it was coming in the building. So we're standing, this half wall is in front of us. We're looking down, and all of a sudden, we have this huge fire. It starts to come in, and you got that kind of train effect of, when is the train going to end? That's a long train. Well, yeah. This thing's coming in, and it goes past this makeshift wall that we had created. And the first thing we noticed first was the shadow that hit the wall. Now, anybody walking by a fire, even if you're small, you're going to get a big shadow that gets thrown. So imagine something so big that it looks fake. And that's what we're looking at, its shadow. So the shadow just overtook the entire wall. There really was no shape or form on the wall. It was just black. And then we see the head come in, then the shoulders and the rest of it, and the tail. And as it's walking in, you could see, that like when tigers or big cats walk, you get the scapulas that pop up, on the back. And you're seeing the bones lifting, but they were surrounded by so much muscle that you could see it rippling as it walked. And it's looking around and it's sniffing the air. It's obviously looking for us, and we're all trying to be as quiet as we can, just frozen in place. And, when it got near the fire, you could start to see that it had saliva just pouring out of its mouth. I'm not talking just dripping. I'm talking like the sound of like when you're in an empty building or something and it's raining and you're hearing big drops hitting. The saliva is hitting the concrete as it's walking. And that's a sign that, said to me immediately, it's either going to feed or kill. And that's why it's salivating. and it bares its teeth every once in a while, and you get the glint of this white, and you see the teeth even when its mouth was closed, the top canines were hanging out, and you would get little glints of the bottom ones here that would show.
Your contract.
Out of its mouth even when it wasn't bearing the teeth. And it walked by the fire, and you could see immediately jet black, except for I thought that it was maybe a reflection of the fire, but we all agreed later that it had a very light white stripe that went from the back of its neck all the way down to the tail. And that was the only other color that this thing showed other than the eyes. You always hear stories about people that see dogmen in the woods during the day, and they talk about the different colored eyes and, blue to black to brown. I don't know what this thing's true eye color was. All we could see was this orange amber color, just literally causing things to light up wherever it looked. So it wasn't eye shine. It was something internal coming out of this thing. And then another thing that really has brought me into believing that these are more than a natural creature, and that there is something supernatural going on, is when it walked by the fire, and its front hands, paws, whatever you want to call them, had touched the ground near the fire. Something happened where it only happened with its front left hand, or whatever you want to call it. It basically blinked out. It cloaked for a second. And you could see they see things through it, almost like that predator effect. And when it put its hand down by the fire, something really strange happened aside from the cloak effect. If you've ever seen video of the sun and the magnetic anomalies and storms that they have on the surface of the sun, where you see, the tubes come out of it and the different shapes and magnetic storms. Basically, that happened right around its cloaked out paw. It only happened for about 2-3 seconds, enough that I noticed it and my other buddy noticed it. The other two did not. They were at a different angle. And
fucking thing.
And it had basically just looked around the room. It bared its teeth after it sniffed, and it snapped its head and looked right up at us. It knew exactly where we were. It finally caught our scent, and it looked at us, and it looked up at us, and it bared its teeth, and it growled again, and you felt a vibration. But I truly believe that this half concrete wall that we had in front of us if it threw that infrasound at us again, I think that half concrete wall blocked it, because we didn't get sick or felt funny or anything. We felt a little vibration. You felt it. Like, I remember I had I think it was my right hand on the top of the wall at that time, and I felt a little vibration in it, but didn't get sick or anything. So I truly believe that wall blocked whatever, because of the angle of it being down on the first floor, us being on the third, and it threw it at us. I truly think it did. And then it stood up again, and it was almost like, like a comic book pose. It threw its arms out to its sides, and its muscles all clenched, and it looked at us, and it growled, and it looked out to the left, it looked to the right, and it saw the stairs on the wall, and it looked back at us, and I got a sinking feeling in my stomach, because I knew what it was going to do. It dropped back down on all four, and it ran for the stairs. And, like I had told you, it was missing 4 stairs, so we had to kind of hop over and climb the wall to get up. And it jumped over that like it wasn't even there. And it was heading up very fluid. Its tail, I remember when it ran, you could tell it utilized it kind of like a rudder. So it was kind of moving. When it moved, its tail kind of bent certain ways. Its tail reminded me of a mountain lion or a cougar. very non-hairy, short hair, very thick. I remember the bones in its legs and its arms being just gigantically thick. And again, that sense of not only are we looking at something that's not supposed to exist, the size again is just so massive, it has to be fake. And again, this is really happening. And when it had stood up, I forgot to mention this, it had stood up near one of those concrete pillars that I had mentioned the building had in all four corners. And we had gone back years later. We never went back for years. And we got an idea of how big these pillars were, which gave us an idea of the size estimation of this animal. And when it stood up, it basically width-wise blocked out the pillar. So it was as wide as the pillar, 4 to 5 feet across. And height-wise, the ceilings were probably where, at the sides where there was floor above. It was probably 15 to 18 feet high. I would guesstimate, and my friends guesstimated, it was somewhere between 10 to 12 feet tall. So it stood up, its ears probably were at least 12 feet at the tip. And again, I've heard people describe sizes of Sasquatch and other cryptids of massive size. And, people will, oh, well, you were kids. Well, we went back as adults. And I'm telling you, we remembered where it stood and it had to be minimum 10 feet. I truly think, again, tips of the ears, 11, 12 feet tall. Now it's heading up the stairs towards us. 2 of my friends are going absolutely ape crap crazy, running. One is running in circles. The one that I had to grab his mouth, he's screaming bloody murder in circles, just running in circles, going nowhere. And he finally jets for the stairs to take him up to the 4th floor. My other friend runs for the fire escape. Again, you can't go down. So only way is up. And I'm frozen, petrified. My other friend standing next to me, he just said, I was standing next to you. I didn't know what to do. And it made its way from the 1st to the 2nd floor in seconds. And then it started to head up from the 2nd floor to the 3rd. And where I was standing, if anybody would have, this thing or anyone would have walked up to the top of the stairs, the first thing it would have met would have been me. And it would have came within 2 feet of me once it got to the top of the stairs. It got to the middle of the stairs and I started having true belief that this is the day that I'm going to die. I started to think about my family. I thought about my dog, who I loved very much. I thought about, I was getting ready to go into high school to play football at the school, Ursuline High School, a Catholic school, is very big in the sports and athletics as well as academics. And my dad had played there. My whole family had gone there. I was very proud that I was going to be playing football there. And I thought, I'm not going to get to play. All this is going through my head. It's all gone. And we're going to watch each one of us truly be mauled and killed by this creature. And this is the end. I really believe this was the day I was going to die. And it was probably within 6 to 7 feet from me when I looked at it, and it was looking right at me or at my friend. I think it was looking at me because he was behind me, and I would have been like, again, the first one it got to. And right at that moment, I will always believe this to the day I die, and the sweat's starting again. I believe there was divine intervention. I truly believe it. I'm Catholic. I'm not a great Catholic. I don't go to church a lot. I don't practice as much as I should. But I think that there was divine intervention, because once it hit that 6, 7 feet mark from me, where if it would have jumped, it would have been on me. We heard that a train. And whenever a train would come by, we would always get nervous, because if they'd see, us in there or the light from a fire, we'd be in big trouble. They would call the police or whoever, and we'd be in trouble. And we had never, ever had a train go by where they laid on the horn. And it came by, and as soon as it went by the building, be it from the angle the guy that was driving it saw the inside, what was going on, or he just saw the fire, which I seem to think he noticed how bright of a fire we had going in there. He laid on this horn, and this thing stopped right 6 to 7 feet from me, and it looked at me, and it looked back at the opening where you could see the train going by, and we're all screaming bloody murder. Somebody help us, please save us. My other two friends are gone. They had, one went up to the roof, the other ran up the stairs. I don't know where he was. My friend and I were screaming, someone help us. And it looked back at us, and it looked back again, and it turned around and started running down. And it took literally, I would say, 1 to 1.5 seconds to get from where it stood 6 to 7 feet from me at the 3/4 mark of that second to third floor step area to the steps of the going from the second to the first. And then something else supernatural happened where you stopped seeing movement of joints and in the tail, and it just was a black streak that left the building. And it wasn't just from how fast it was. It had basically gone from physical creature to almost shadow. And it just was just a black mass had just left the building, and it was gone. And I'll always remember that. And as through the years, the things I've been learning, hearing about shadow people and people, very similar things that I saw and we saw when it did that. And we're screaming, and the train just is, ka-clonk, ka-clonk, ka-clonk. And it starts, we're thinking it's slowing down, and it wasn't. And it starts getting farther and farther away. And then the hope of we're going to be saved is slowly leaving us. And then it's gone. And then the fear sets back in that this thing's going to turn around, and it's going to come back in, and it's going to kill us. And by that time, my other two friends had come back down because they heard the train and they heard us screaming help. And I think that they thought that, everything was going to be all right, and people were coming for us, and they almost, my one buddy almost had kind of almost a half smile on his face. And when we all looked at each other, everybody was pale white and just so weak from the experience already that I wanted to curl up in a ball and just lay there. And the fear set back in, it's going to come back in. And an hour goes by, and we're still up there, and it didn't. And then we start talking to each other, it's after 10 o'clock. We have to get out of here because this thing's going to eventually come back. And my friend that had lost it and that we had to shut up is totally postal, crying, screaming, I just want to go home. I want my mom and dad. Please, God, help us. And we're trying to calm him down, and he won't. And we're like, listen, we have to go. He's like, no, we can't go out there. It's going to be waiting for us. It's going to be there. And we all thought that. But then again, the fear of, as each minute clicks by, we're giving this thing the opportunity, if it did run away, to come back and see if we're still there, or it knows we're still there. It's outside just watching. And we kept looking at the space between this makeshift wall and the opening of the building where there was concrete, looking for those orange eyes shining out there, and we couldn't see them. And it was hard to see, but if it was looking at us, it was so bright, we would have saw it. And so we finally decided, okay, we have to at least go down to the second floor. And my friend is just going crazy, and we're dragging him with us. We pull him down the second floor, and we're probably up there for maybe half an hour. And then we go down to the first, and we say, we have to make a run for it. We have to go. We have to go now. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. We're in an old steel mill in downtown Youngstown. I mean, this is not where you want to be, even if there's not a mythological creature trying to hunt you down and kill you. So we're like, we have to get out of here. And we just remembered then, I remember thinking, oh my God, we have weapons. But I'm telling you, Josh, there is no way on God's green earth that if, even with me having a 38 on me, that they
in 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered
it would have done nothing but anger this thing. I thank God we didn't ever pull them out or shoot at it or anything. I don't think we could have even hit it. Number one, we were so horrified. Number two, it would have done nothing. It would have just pissed it off, and it would have mauled us even worse. So we start to leave. We have to go. I am sweating. I'm sorry. Surprised I haven't cried yet. I usually break a little bit.
Oh, dude, your story is woo.
It's
affecting me, man. I'm all choked up. Go ahead, go. Keep on.
Finally, we start to leave, and my friend is screaming bloody murder. Please don't let us go out there. It's going to kill us. Finally, I grabbed them, and I'm sorry I have to use my language. I grabbed them. I said, listen to me. I said, you are going to come with us, or we're going to leave you here to die. You are going to come with us, or it's going to come in here and it will kill you, and you will be here alone. We will leave you here. You either come with us now or you will stay. And he's screaming, don't leave me, don't leave me. So finally, we turned around, me and my friend. We took his hand, and he grabbed both of our shirts, and he's strangling us, pulling on our shirts, and we had to literally pull him out of the building to get out there. We get out to the concrete outcropping, and the fear sets in also, because what I had forgotten to mention was when you climb up, you could look underneath, and it would go way back into the building. So it was very, very reasonable to think that this thing was underneath, waiting for us to drop, and then it would be over, and no one would hear us. It could maul each of us, take its time. No one would have ever heard us. And even if they heard screams in the downtown area or up by the highway, no one would know where they were coming from. So we jump down and we start taking off, and we're going as fast as we can. My buddy's choking us to death. Finally, we get him to the point where he's running on his own, and we're all running together, almost arm in arm together in a straight line. And it takes a half an hour to get to my friend's house from that blast furnace. So that's a half an hour of complete and utter terrorizing fear that we were in, with every noise, every pebble one of us kicked, every time the wind would pick up and leaves would blow, we would think it was there, it was behind us, it was chasing us. We'd turn around and stop and look around. We finally got to the last portion of where we could get out of this area. And what it was a hill, literal hill of gravel and just material that going down was easy. You could turn your feet to the side, standing up, and just walk yourself down slowly. Going up, you had to go up on all fours. And we would always laugh at each other. We would always, make fun of whoever was the first that would start sliding down, because we would always lose our foot. They would always go out from under us, and it would take us longer, and it was exhausting to get up, having this gravel coming out from under your hands and feet. So now we're crawling up this pile of gravel, this huge mountain of gravel, and each one of us at different times, because we're trying to go as fast as we can, start to slide down, and the fear sets in that it's behind us, it's going to get us. And numerous times, each one of us screamed, "Is it behind me? Is it behind me?" And you turn around and you look, and it wouldn't be there. You'd expect to see it. We finally got up there. Me and my one buddy made it first, and we helped our other friends. We pulled them up, and we ran across the highway, and we went over the fence and across the street and to my buddy's house that lived across, and his parents weren't home. And I remember, this always sticks out to me. He had a hose, and I remember turning the hose on, and I just drank and drank and drank until my stomach felt like it was going to pop. And I just poured it all over my head, and each one of us did the same thing. And when we just sat on the porch and on the stairs, my other buddy was in the front yard, and each one of us in a complete and utter daze, not talking for at least an hour at least, staring across out towards where we had come from. We couldn't see the area, obviously, it was so far, but we're just staring in shock and disbelief. My one friend who had lost it, he didn't talk for 2 weeks. He had to go start seeing a psychiatrist. I had major problems. I started to go, I'm half Lebanese. We belong to St. Mary's Church. If you're from the Youngstown area, you know it. It's a church there that Lebanese go to. And I went there and I talked to the priest there, and I told him about what happened, and I expected, the priest did not believe me or say anything, and he believed me immediately. And he had told me, Matthew, he said, you need to understand something. First and foremost, he said, God saved your lives. He said, I believe there was divine intervention. And he said, secondly, you need to understand that there are things in this world that most people have no clue about, any idea. And he mentioned exorcisms specifically. And he said, there are demons in this world. In the church, it is well known, you go all the way to Italy and Rome, and they teach, they have their top-notch exorcists that go all over the world for the most horrible demon exorcisms. And he mentioned maybe it was a demon or something, but he had given the impression and that he knew what it was, and he was not surprised at all that we saw something like this. And, the priest had said, sometimes these things bleed into our world, and they take some of us. And some of us are lucky enough to get away, or they just don't bother us. And he said, but there are a long-standing history of things that aren't supposed to existing in this world. And he said, I believe you. And I cried. I broke down. And, it wasn't, why would a child go to a priest and make up a story like that? And, we had talked about, obviously, the situation of us having to address this with our families. And we all agreed, there's 4 of us, we would always be with each other when we spoke to our parents together so that we could be there to back each other up. Well, 2 of my buddies' parents had you guys are full of crap. They didn't want to hear it. Just get out of here. Go do what you're going to do. My parents, my mom walked out of the room. You're crazy. She didn't want to hear it. My dad, however, knew me and looked at me and said, well, maybe you guys saw a bear. Maybe it was a bear with mange, or maybe it was, some mutated normal animal, a bear. He kept saying bear because we kept telling him how big it was and what would you compare it to. And we talked about a polar bear. It was as big as a polar bear, but it didn't look like a polar bear. It looked like a wolf. It looked like a man-shaped wolf, but it was giant. And he just kept saying, well, you guys saw something, they're 14-year-old kids. They saw, something natural. They just don't know what it is. Then my best friend's dad, who I'm not going to out him, he's passed away. So I'm not going to out him and his family because I'm very close to them. But all I'm going to say is, and any of my friends that see this, they know who I'm talking about and what his dad did. He basically was in charge of the city. He was in charge of the police and many other parts of it. And we told him, his mom did the same thing mine did. She just said, you guys are crazy. You saw a big dog or whatever. And she left the room. She didn't want to hear it. And his dad, however, got very upset. And he gave us the impression that he knew what we were talking about. And he first and foremost went off on us and said, choice words, what the hell are you guys doing down there? You could get killed down there. The place is falling apart. He said people put bodies down there. There was a couple homeless people that were mauled by packs of dogs down, and he brought that up, which makes me wonder, was it really a pack of dogs that mauled these 2 homeless men? Was it? I don't know. I don't know. After seeing what I saw and we saw, I can't guarantee it. But he didn't want to talk about it anymore. He warned us, if you ever go back down there, he said, I promise you, I will put you in JJC. He said, you will not play football at Ursuline. He looked at me right. He said, you think that you'll play? He says, your coach will never allow you to play. He'll think you're crazy. He said, you guys will go and you'll go to the city school, which is Ryan High School. He said, you won't go to Ursuline. You won't go to that school. You'll go to the city school, and you guys will be made fun of the rest of your lives, and you'll be the joke of Youngstown. And he called my father, and I'm going to say something here. My older sister, I told her about this recently. My parents are gone. And I've never really told anybody in my family about this other than my dad, because of what happened when my dad was called to my friend's house. And my sister and I got into it. This was just recently. And she looked at me, she said, what are you talking about? She goes, what do you mean? She goes, how did we never hear about this? She says, why didn't mom or dad tell us about this? What are you talking? She was denying that I'm telling the truth. I'm looking at her, I'm a 50-year-old man. You think I'm going to lie to you? You're my sister. What are you, Chris? So we got into it. And I'm being honest about this. And if she hears it, she can admit it. We got into it. And I was very upset about this. But the reason I didn't talk about it, especially, and I'm sure my younger brother, who's only a year younger than me, is not going to be happy about this when he finds out, because we were best friends growing up. We were inseparable. But when my best friend would come, he sat us down and he talked to my dad. My dad's name was Ken. And he said, Ken, he said, you know the situation here. He said, if these boys go around talking about it, number one, all their classmates are going to go down there. Somebody's going to get killed just from getting hurt from the buildings and everything. He said, secondly, he said, your son is going to be the joke of his school. He won't play ball. And he looked at me and he had this look of, oh man. And he said, you have to promise me that you make your son not talk about this. He doesn't tell his siblings about this. You don't talk to your wife about this. And he pulled my dad aside and they went in the kitchen and they talked. And when I went home, my dad kept looking at me my dad and I were super ultra close. We called each other best buddy. We were close. All of the kids, 5 kids in my family, we all had special relationships with my parents, but me and my dad had the closest. And he kept looking at me with this just fear in his face that I kept telling him, I'm crying hysterically, Dad, you have to believe me. This is what we saw. And he kept looking at me like, Jesus, I think he's telling the truth. And after what my friend's dad said to him is when he really got scared. And he said, you can't tell your sisters and brothers about this. Don't talk about it with my younger brother. He kept saying, don't tell him, because we were inseparable. He said, you can't tell him. He said, he's not going to be able to sleep. You're going to cause problems. So he put the fear of God in me, and so did my buddy's dad. A week later, my best friend tells me he finally got his dad to sit down with him and talk. And he said, he knows what it is. He said he told him that his officers had gotten calls about these things. He had 2 officers that had seen it and that he knows all about it. And he gave him the implication that it at least had killed one of those 2 people that had been mauled in the downtown steel mill area, that were homeless people living in that area. He said he basically told me that he knew everything about it. Don't ever go back down there. You guys are lucky to be alive. And we just were like, whoa, finally somebody is giving us credence and believing us. And I felt this sense of, oh my God, we're not crazy. We didn't see a bear. We're not just little kids that don't know what's going on. This is real and this is crazy. So, over the years, I've learned, obviously been just completely just stuck on what happened. I think about it every day. And the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten more involved in the cryptid community. I met you, I met Josh Turner and Barton Nunley, and I've talked to other people like Wes Germer and Tony Merkel, and these guys all making the same face that you're making right now, a little pale with your hand over your mouth. This is not, anybody can believe what they want. And I'm talking to anybody watching this right now. I'm looking at you right now. You can believe whatever you want. You can think that this is entertainment, because in the end of the day, this channel's for entertainment. But let me tell you something. I will go to my grave. I'm giving you pertinent, personal information about myself and where I live and my family and the schools I went to and the area I grew up into. This happened. This was real. I have no reason to make myself look like a crazy person or just somebody looking for attention. This really happened. You can think I'm crazy if you want, but let me tell you something. You look at all of the instances of people are having more and more experiences these days, and because of media, we're hearing more about them, and you're getting more information out than ever. There's stuff going on, and I've heard some experiencers out there that it's cringeworthy, and it's obvious they're making it up. But I've heard stuff over the years, especially the last couple of years. And when I talked to Josh Turner at Paranormal Roundtable, and he told me about his experience and what him and his cousin saw, it was almost exactly what I saw. And I had never met him before. I had never talked to Josh before until I told my experience. And I got the fear of God in me again. And right now I'm nervous. I have anxiety in my chest. I'm sweating. My shirt's starting to show it. I keep wiping sweat from me. I usually crack a tear or two. I'm surprised I haven't. There are things out there that people don't want to believe are real. There are. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just telling you, this is what happened. If there was one person you can question, there were 4 of us. 4 of us, okay? 4. We all talked about it for years. 2 of my friends are gone. God rest their souls. And they had issues for years. And they started doing other things that ended their lives prematurely that I believe was because of what happened to us. My other friend refuses to discuss it. He has a very successful business. He thanks me all the time whenever we talk that I have the guts to talk about this. He's afraid to talk about it. He to this day has severe PTSD and doesn't even like to discuss it more than 5 minutes.
With Asana, AI teammates can
Make
help
you
level
wonder.
up your goals by connecting them to
Make you wonder. Make me wonder.
Every team knows their role.
What do you guys think? It would be cool if there were cryptids, but they simply didn't exist. The only evidence anybody ever has is stories. Like this grainy, faraway, shaky camp. Okay. Maybe they're not actually physical things, or maybe they're entities. Who knows? You're entitled to believe what you want. Thank you for letting the world know.
I don't know what else to say. I'm not going to make a fool of myself, in front of thousands of people, because a lot of people are going to see this. And I've done other shows, and people have seen it. There's no reason for me to lie. And anybody that knows me personally that will see this, you know who I am. I'm not a liar. I'm not a crazy person. I'm not somebody that makes up fantastical stories. This happened. And it almost ended our lives. And people need to know that these things are real. And they're still out there. People are telling, their experiences. And I hear, similarities. I've heard some recently. Some guy mentioned one about the raccoon hands. And that made me stop. And he mentioned a couple other things. And, it was really crazy. And I had... something happened to me. This is the first time I'm ever going to share this. I've never shared this on any other show. About 3.5 weeks ago, almost a month, I had a dream that was the realest dream I've ever had in my life. Normally in your dream, when you think you're at home, it's not your home. I was at home. I was in my backyard. I heard something. We have woods behind our house. I heard something in the woods. I went to the woods and, I lost my right leg below the knee last April. I had some complications, health issues from surgeries. And I have a prosthetic. And I remember something attacked me from behind and threw me on the ground. And I saw what it was. And it was what I saw all those years ago. And it ripped off my pant leg and it threw my prosthetic into the woods. And then it got on top of me and it crawled over top of me, and it was 100% the thing I saw when I was 14. And it crawled over me and the eyes were glowing and it was dripping saliva. It dripped in my mouth. And I mean, like, I've gagged at telling people this story a couple times. I tasted it. I could smell it. It looked at me and it did what I've heard people mention some cryptids do, which is mind speak, basically talking to you in your head. And it put its head maybe 2 inches from me, and it looked at me and it started speaking to me in my mind. And it could have been just the ultra realistic dream, but I'm telling you, then it was the realest dream of my life. And it told me in my dream that I've been talking too much about it, that it's been looking for me for a long time, and it was there for me all those years ago, and that it will see me again someday.
That's
And then
spooky.
I woke up and I was sweating. My puppy, her name's Hadley, was at the foot of my chair. I was soaking wet. She was standing there. She's normally never there. It was like 3:30 in the morning. She's always up in bed with my wife. And she's at the foot of my chair, whining with her front paws on my legs, looking at me like, what's wrong? And I'm telling you, maybe it was just an ultra realistic dream, but I'm telling you, it was the realest dream I've ever had in my life. And it was 100% what I saw all those years ago. Now, maybe it's just because I've told the story a few times. And I'm sorry, it's not a story. It's an experience. I have to designate those two, because there are stories out there and they're just that, stories. This was an experience. And maybe because I had been talking about it recently, I met you for the first time at Josh's Cryptid conference in Texas, and I met people there that had seen things, and I don't think it was a dream. It was too real. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That's basically what has gone down. I've had some other things happen. I think I told you, I even sent you an audio clip. I had went to Beaver Creek State Park. If I didn't, I'll send it to you. I had went there for a Bigfoot conference a few months ago, which is in Ohio. The night before the conference, I had met a guy named Johnny Freeman, who's a psychic. You can look him up online. He's on Facebook. He came up to me. I never met the man in my life. He came up to me and told me I needed to go up this sketchy trail. Now, I had just had my left knee replaced. I have a prosthetic on my right leg. He tells me I need to go up this trail. There's supposedly a portal up at the top of this trail. And I looked at him, and first I'm like, he has his hand on my arm. I'm like, bro, slow your roll. I don't know who you are. What are you talking about? I can't just go up some trail. I've got half a leg. I just had my knee replaced. He said, I'm sorry. He says, I've never seen someone with an aura like you before. He says, you need to go up this trail. There's a reason. And I go up this trail. It took me probably 35, 40 minutes, and nothing visual happened. At the end of me being there talking out loud, I made an EVP. I'd never done an EVP before. I've seen all the ghost shows and everything. And I pulled out my phone and I started recording the app. And I basically had asked questions out loud, and this is online. You could go to Cryptic Creatures, which is another cryptid site where my buddy Todd Erie and Brian Brock interviewed me. They upped the sounds on this recording if you want to hear. And I'm not trying to plug somebody else there, Josh, sorry.
Oh, you're right about it, buddy.
It's on there, and you can hear it, and you hear basically a grunt, which everybody I played with, from Ron Moorhead, who is a legend in the Bigfoot community, to Martin Groves, who is a legend and is like a father to me, and I love the man. We've talked and sat down. He has, in my opinion, the most memorable, most insane experience of Dogman and Bigfoot that you've ever heard, if you haven't heard it. We sat down at the conference where I met you, and we became very close, and we looked at each other with fear in our eyes because of the similarities to what we had both seen, and we had never met before. So, you hear on this thing, you hear a grunt, you hear wood knocks. I didn't hear them with my own ears. You can hear them on this recording. Martin Groves will tell you about him and I and about us meeting and the similarities. And it's not fake. So that's what's happened. I've had some crazy stuff connected with me through the years. I've always had a sensitivity to things. I've noticed details that most people don't over the years. And I freak my family out sometimes doing things. And I don't know, maybe it's just I'm sensitive like some people. And, you know, there's that veil that break our world from the supernatural world. And I think some of us are just capable sometimes to see things that others can. I think that this thing broke through, like my priest told me. It bled through, and we just happened to be there. It did not like that we were there, and I think it tried to remove us. And that's what went down, and that's what I've gone through over the years, and things are still kind of happening on and off, and nothing of that severity, but definitely weird.
Wow.
There we go.
You took me through a roller coaster, man.
It's been crazy.
You know, being at that conference, hearing Martin Groves' experience was utterly terrifying. You guys, I'd say, are like right around. I've only ever heard, I guess, when I say a handful, I mean like less than 6. It's that, you know me. Everyone knows what I do, my channel. I've gone through so man, and there's a lot of stories and accounts that never even made it to the channel that I've never talked to anybody about. But there is 3 in particular that are now stated. Yours being one of them, as far as one of the most emotionally taxing stories that I've ever endured because of the it's not just how good you were able to tell it, but the level. Feed off of
You got a little call there for a minute.
It was genuine. Yeah, it honestly shook me. There's only a few stories that genuinely shook me. Martin's was another. And then there was another gentleman. Unfortunately, it wasn't a video. I didn't get to hear it in person, but you might know what I'm talking about. It's a gentleman who had an experience back in Kentucky. I want to say it was around the 80s too. Similar to yours. He had gone with a couple of friends it was like an old flooded out hospital. I don't remember where in Kentucky it was. They were down in the basement where the old morgue was. And then this is just off my memory. He goes in one of the pull-out panels or something, or he's on something, and he hears something come in and go down the ladder, and he thinks it's his friends. Well, long story short, I can't give you the good version because I don't really remember. It's been a while. Anyway, this thing comes in and it chases him through the bottom part. And it's so much like you described. I mean, you could see the fear as you're reading that, like how he typed it and explained it. And long story short, he was able to make it out. This thing nearly chased after him. He runs across the street to some lady's house. He's frantic. He doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, and so there's a little. I'll have to send you the story because it's like, oh my gosh. And,
yeah, I've never heard of it.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of like having to process like what I just endured. So like, begin to like, okay, let me start to dissect this and like understand like where do I even.
I'm not things like I think this thing was like an alpha because it was just so long and massive and giant, and all the comparisons I've heard have been bigger than human, but not to that size.
Right.
And this thing just seemed abnormally even big from some of the things. I truly believe, from what I've learned and heard about most Sasquatch, the one that thing that we saw, I would put my money on that one. I really would. I don't think there's many things out there that could handle this thing. It was created for being from whoever, the devil, demons, whoever, as just the alpha predator. This thing was created for one thing, and it was to be a predator.
Have you seen any sort of werewolf depiction that can even closely resemble, other than the Van Helsing werewolf?
Yeah, you just touched on it right there. That's it.
That's what you saw.
The one that Hugh Jackman turned into specifically, because there's 2 in that movie. The one at the beginning, the one lady's brother turns into one that's kind of whitish gray colored. She asks him not to shoot it at the beginning of the movie. Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
I don't remember that. It's been a long time, but we all
there's one.
Right.
The weightlifter, I would say.
Bettina, I did Bettina's show, and I told her too that when Hugh Jackman turned into the werewolf, the black one, that's the closest thing that I have seen that can compare. His was a little more human-like. This wasn't as human-like as that was. This was more something out of like a comic book or something. It was just the
Freaky.
arms just so insanely long. Its fingers were reaching almost to its ankles. Its arms were just so long. It was just like freaky. That's one of the freakiest things. So it had some type of internal something going on there that caused those eyes to shine like that. It was not eye shine. No way.
So, you think Kamala might be one? That's hilarious. What's up, Elvis James? Dogman, Wolfman, same thing. Patrick Kelly, I don't know if I'd be willing to do it. Maybe when I'm in better shape. Maybe I lose another 40 pounds. Maybe when I lose another 40 pounds. We'll go run down there. What's up, Elvis? What's up, everyone? Please like, share, subscribe. So we can watch. We can either finish up this interview and listen to the questions they ask them, or we can watch something on Mothman quick. Kind of quick. The Mothman one's pretty freaky, too. It's up to you guys. Let's check out the poll. 58% of the people that took the poll tonight believe in cryptids. 58% believe. 42% don't. I don't know what to believe. I pay attention to the missing 411 too. And the missing 411 makes me wonder what the fuck is out there. Because it's just tons of people being unalived in national parks and areas around the country that they find them far away from location where they thought they went missing. They send dogs out. It's pretty wild. So if you guys look into the missing 411, it makes me wonder if shit like this is out there. And I hate to go down this. I would hate to go down this path just because I've been covering the election. And you guys know I talk about shit like that. But, is it something the government did and hang around and let them go free? You know? Is it something from some fucking government lab that they let go? When that other guy that we watched at the beginning of the night was talking about his experience that shot a wolfman or dogman, whatever you wish to call it. He said the government stopped him and talked to him and took his gun, yada, 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 allegedly. And he said that the government said it was an asset. You unalived a government asset. So, I don't know. I just like to see what other people think. That's why I'm asking you guys. That's why I like to see what other people's views are. As long as they're not morons about it. Or they're sucking Kamala's ass, then I don't want to hear it. Because you can't be that fucking stupid. Hopefully. But I think we're going to look into Mothman a little bit. I got a little more battery we can use up. And we've done a lot with this tonight. As far as Dogman, Wolfman, whatever you wish to call them. I don't want to beat a dead horse. And there's always new stories coming out. So I don't want to just beat this down all in one episode. Thank you for watching tonight. Please like, share, subscribe to NatesLiveTalk. Please take our poll. So I'm going to show the Mothman documentary. It looked pretty good when I watched a few minutes of it. This is the Mothman of Point Pleasant. But I guarantee there's stuff out there we don't know about. Whether it's spiritual, whether it's something fucking created, I don't know. A demon, a fallen angel. I think there's things out there we have no clue about. I mean, if you look at the ocean alone, we don't know anything that's down there. Nothing. We barely know how deep it is in spots. We didn't find that out until the fucking world wars. Allegedly.
After the movie came out, and we decided to give it a go. We decided like in October.
Did too.
They never could.
All these people have PTSD when they see these different people, these different types of things, cryptids. A lot of them are never right again. That's another big thing. I don't know if there's a correlation, like they were losing it before they saw them, but every single person we've seen tonight has said they had PTSD from what they saw.
Could come up with a viable answer as to what.
It's serious questions.
This story got everything. There's so much weird shit that allegedly happened.
I wish there were a lot more supernatural creatures that would make life more interesting. But I think in this case, it was just something that existed, does exist still, and occasionally came out of there. He could have been mutated. It could have been mutated by that particular area, which was the grounds are poisoned. They still are even to this day. The EPA is trying to clean that up. Sometimes, like if you remember...
When is good enough?
In the classroom school book.
Pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. Oh. So let's look at some of the contents, the comments. Excuse me. Crispy, good to see you. Crispy, have you ever gone to Point Pleasant? I know you live in the area. But there was so many different things they claimed that happened in that city around the time of Mothman. And there was also a problem with the drinking water, they think, potentially, that maybe people were hallucinating. So it's wild. There's a lot of factors. I don't know. I just present the evidence for you guys. I love watching this stuff. I love researching it. I'd probably be sitting here watching something like that anyway, so I figure might as well hang out and do it with you guys. Have some fun. But when they say it mutated, I don't know what would mutate into something that looks like a dude with wings. That's awesome, Crispy. The festival looks fun, man. I've always had something, I swear, calling me to West Virginia. Like, it looks like fucking the type of place I belong. I'm serious. The people from there seem happy, even though they don't got shit. Some of them. I would really consider moving to West Virginia if I could find a way to make a living. Because it seems like a cool place, man. It seems cool. I think it's cool. You're getting them hollers and shit, and up there in the mountains. It's a pretty beautiful place. Yeah, it really is. I've never been, but I've researched West Virginia a lot. I watched a documentary on the wild. I think it's the Whites. Jesco White, I think it was, and his family, the Wild Whites from West Virginia. Maybe they're fucking wild. They seem like a good time. um, I just like regular people. I don't like fancy dancy, all that shit. It's not my thing. It's never really been. A little bit when I was younger and trying to be cool and shit, but I never really worried about fancy this or fancy that. Majority of my life. Maybe from about 18 to 24, 25. Then I realized I was wasting my money on nonsense. Yeah, it seems like it. It really seems like it. Have you lived your entire life there, Crispy? I don't remember if I asked you before. I'm sorry if I did. Well, West Virginia was pretty fucking... I gotta at least get there and check it out. It just seems like fucking good people. It really just seems like good people. I've never seen anyone acting like... I've seen some people act a little fucked up, but like the videos I've seen on it and shit, people seem nice for the most part. I know they don't play around if you want to fuck with them, but who plays around when they're getting fucked with? Nobody. Nobody. Why ain't this piece of shit charging? Maybe it's charging slow. Awesome. He has mothballs. Tommy, good one. Right? Does Mothman have mothballs? Good one, Tommy. I fucking love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm 30 pounds down. 30 pounds going. I'm laying down chilling right now, so I don't look as skinny, but I've lost 30 pounds. I'm officially under 300 pounds. Officially under 300 pounds, but I got at least another fucking 70 pounds to go. Minimum. Thank you. And it's been windy here, so I haven't been taking people on my walks. It's not worth it. When the wind blows and I go down the beach, it's just not worth it. People won't hear me. And my walks are getting quite long, too, so I don't want to just be walking and, you know, it's not the easiest thing to talk while you're walking and all that shit. I really just been trying to focus on doing it. But I'm going to do some this week, just because I didn't do them last week. Last week was the first week I haven't done them since I started my weight loss. But yeah, I just been eating pretty much the same. It's slowed down a little bit. I don't know. I've been lifting a little bit of weights. I've been working out again too, so I don't know if that's why it's slowed down a little bit, or just because I dropped 30 pounds quick. You know, but I'll get rid of it. I also been drinking a lot more water. I'm forcing myself to drink water. So that could be why I'm not losing as much weight either, because I'm not dehydrated for once. But thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. We need a lineman in New England, man. Fucking, my offensive line's killing me. Jacoby fucking, excuse my language, I swear a lot. I really got to work on it. Ugh. Jacoby Brissett is killing me. Killing me. If they don't play Drake May this weekend, I'm going to fucking break something. I'm so sick of watching Jacoby Brissett just get sacked like he's Drew Bledsoe. They might as well have Drew Bledsoe back there. Just sitting back there like a big dummy, waiting to get drilled. and the play calling for New England hasn't been good. The line hasn't been good. The defense is a little beat up. The defense actually did all right against the Niners, but they were on the field the whole game. You can't put a team on. You can't play the 49ers and not have your offense keep them off the field. Yeah, me too, Tom Howe. Thank you. Really, 50. That's cool. I don't get hungry either. Ever since I started fasting, I really don't get hungry. Some days I don't eat at all. I really don't. But I have to because I don't want to screw up my metabolism. Because that's not good either. But I'll be like, holy shit, it's 5 o'clock. I didn't eat anything. You know? I have a cup of coffee without sugar. Oh, I don't really have trouble with soda. I drink a little bit of diet soda, but not a ton. Soda's never been a big thing, believe it or not. My biggest thing was eating food that was eating foods with a lot of preservatives fucked me up. And then work, you guys know my story, but most of it was my endocrine system, my metabolism was fucked up. All that stuff's starting to come back. I was ultra stressed out between my old job and my relationship not going well. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Which I guess is good. I'm still getting used to all that shit. Hopefully I get over it eventually. I mean, I'm doing all right. I just didn't want to not try to make it work. And I feel like a failure. But I got to look at it like I wasn't the one that quit. So I can live with the fact that I didn't quit. But it's still tough. I have dreams about my girl's kids and her still, you know. So I haven't had them in a while, thank God, because it was getting rough. I was having them like every night. I wake up in the morning like exhausted, just so burnt out. Go to bed trying to like forget about it and then dream about it all night, you know. But I'm getting there. Every day I get a step further from it. And every day I get a little healthier, a little stronger. But thank you guys for asking. Yeah, I'm sure. That's why I stay busy. That's why I make videos every day. That's why I've been working out. I try to keep my mind busy. You know? I go to therapy too. Believe it or not. I know it sounds corny and shit, but yeah, buddy, I'm sorry you missed most of it. We're just hanging and talking for a minute. You missed it, dude. We did it for 3 hours. But I go to therapy for that and other shit. Going to talk to someone, I started doing it in my 30s and it helped out a lot. Even if you don't have major problems, going to talk to someone about stuff in your life, it really is helpful. It really is. I leave there sometimes, I feel so much better. So much better. I suggest everyone go talk to someone if you can afford it, or your insurance covers it. Even if it's BetterHelp online or something like that. And I think a lot of places, they have like slot scales. I mean, stuff with mental health stuff with mental health is good. They're usually pretty good about getting you to be able to in to talk to someone. Yeah, talking to people on the chat helps, buddy. Um, I don't like dumping it on the people in my life. I have a couple friends I can talk to and stuff, but I don't like doing that to friends. People got their own problems, so I don't like dumping it on other people. And I try not to, I don't do it perfectly. It's hard to say. Like, I don't like giving advice. I try not to give advice. I try to be careful when people tell me what to do. Because I've listened to people when I was younger and wasn't the smartest thing. So I'm just careful about that shit. Yeah, absolutely. I would never hurt myself, first and foremost. I would never hurt myself. That's not the issue. The issue is just working through it. I never had a problem with wanting to do that. But I find it better to go talk to someone. Plus, it's good for you. I have believe it or not, even though I'm heavy and shit, I have perfect blood pressure. I don't know how. I don't know how with the shit I've been through my entire life. My doctor's like, your fucking blood pressure is perfect. Every time you come in here, and I smoke, I'm fucking very lucky. Yeah, Crispy. What's up, Empty? And I don't take any medications, whether they want to throw them at me or nothing. I don't take any medicine from a therapist. And a therapist really can't provide you with anything anyway. If you go to a psychiatrist now, that's another story. But to go to a therapist, they can't do as much. And I go to a therapist, not a shrink. Like my therapist can't subscribe me Xanax or any of that shit. Or bipolar. I don't have issues with that shit. Thank God. And there's nothing wrong if you do. If you do decide to take the medicine and shit, just do your research on it. Yeah, some SSRIs can be deadly. That's what I mean. Yeah. They can do what you don't want them to do. And a lot of them, there's health risks too. It'll mess with your libido. It'll mess with things. I've researched them just because I know people with mental illness. Oh, it helps big time, Empty. Big time. Just to go drop shit that's in your head bothering you. Yeah, I suggest a therapist, not a psychiatrist. Because they don't know. I mean, they got an idea about certain things and this and that, but I don't think they've ever proven psych meds actually work. I mean, for every single thing. I'm very scared about pills. I had a wicked pill habit when I was younger I had cancer when I was younger, and my doctors fed me pain pills my entire life. So I'm very careful about taking pills nowadays because it took all my energy to get off of them. So I don't want to be taking something that could put me in that place again. But yeah, let's see what's going on in the world. Check out some different shit. That's good, Empty. I'm glad to hear it. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? Try it. Yeah, they're no good. That's what I mean. Make you a zombo. Someone came in the chat tonight saying Trump got in trouble for trying to end an election fraud. Like, that's old news, dude. And I don't care if they said he said that or not. It probably is bullshit made up. Well, I just want to look into it quick. It's probably someone trolling me because they know we do Trump stuff. Yeah, I don't like giving stuff to kids either. Stuff gets always scared me with my stepkids. It wasn't my say. I didn't say anything, but like, and she didn't put them on medicine, thank God. But we were always worried about that. Nowadays, they just want to give kids fucking Adderall and this and that and Ritalin, and everyone's got a problem. No, he's a 6-year-old fucking boy. He's got to run around and get his energy out. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a fucking little boy that likes to get dirty and play and, fucking doesn't wipe his butt good all the time and pees on the toilet. What the fuck? He's 5. He's 6. Give the dude a break. What the fuck? Act like he's supposed to be a fucking angel. He's 5. He's 6. Even if he's 12, what the fuck? They're kids. Russia hit Ukraine tonight? Or is that fucking clickbait? Oh, man. Oh, no, it's not clickbait. Gigantic fireball sparks fears. Putin drops world's most powerful non-nuke on Ukraine. He told him he was gonna. He told him, stop fucking with me. Don't think you're gonna throw them missiles over here. I don't know why they think he's fucking playing. Oh. I don't know why they think it's okay just to bomb Russia and they're gonna do nothing about it. I'm not on either side, but what the fuck? Whoa. What a cloud. Holy shit. It looks like they dropped it on an area where it's already, like, been bombed out. Maybe it was a warning. I can't be 100% sure. I don't know if the footage is good. I can't show the footage because for some reason they get mad when I do anything to do with war coverage or I talk about it too much. They demonetize it. Not that it's all about the money and shit. It's about the copyright strike. Or, you get... Sometimes you can get, like... They'll give you a flag. You're only allowed to get so many flags. If you get too many copyright strikes, they can fuck you up bad. And I put too much energy into doing that, letting that happen. Trying to build this channel, even though it's small. It's an expensive game of chess. Yeah, and we got more hurricanes possibly coming. I've been telling people for months. I know you guys heard me. I've been telling people, look, I'm trying not to be negative. I don't like talking about the Civil War, the other wars. You guys know how much I hate war. It's not something I support. It's a big reason why I'm voting for Trump. Because there was no wars when he was in. Very few. One military conflict that ended very quickly. That was significant for the U.S. There's always little shit going on here and there, but full blown shit like now, none of that happened under Trump. "21 hours ago, biggest victory for Russia is Putin captures Volodya. I think that's how you say it. Volodya City. He's not gonna fuck around, man. Russia's no joke. I don't know why people think Russian people are tough, man. It gets cold up there in the winter. They fucking Americans better wake up. We got a nice cushy life over here. I don't think people realize it. We got a very nice cushy life over here. You know? Besides working our balls off. Which I don't have to do as much anymore because I was smart when I was younger. But I do different type of work now with YouTube and doing my eBay shit and my side hustles. And luckily I invested some money that I can get at a long time ago. Money I put away when I was in my 20s. That's finally paying off that I didn't touch it. But yeah, and then someone, I don't know, someone during the chat just tried to say Trump got a court for election fraud. They're going after him again. I didn't see nothing about that. I'm sure we would have heard about it instantly. I know whatever's going on with Trump in New York, that case is starting to fall apart, it looks like. And I know that Trump is starting to dominate in some of the polls, it looks like, as much as people don't like it. I love it. I hope it's true. The truth will set you free. Yeah, I don't see nothing about that bullshit. I don't see nothing about that bullshit. Some little asshole trying to cause problems. And if Trump gets off in New York, which he should, because it's a load of you-know-what, that should help him more, too. Should help him more. I don't know. I don't mess with crypto. I don't touch it. I don't know enough about it. I know people that put a lot of money in crypto and lost it all. Because Bitcoin takes dives sometimes. What's up, Will? I don't touch it. I had a little Ethereum when it first came out that I made a little money on, but I got rid of it. Just because it scared the fuck out of me. I don't think it's the, I don't know. Something about it fucks with me. I try to get my money and get out with that shit. And I did it with that Ethereum, which worked out well. But I think if you just put things in the top 500 companies in America, it will work out well. You just got to wait. You just got to wait it out. Play the long game. If you guys are younger. There's really no quick get-rich schemes. I haven't found them. Not legal ones. They unsealed crucial Jack Smith documents in Trump's 2020 election case. Okay, big deal. They're not going to say nothing until after the election anyway. If he wins, he has immunity.
4 p.m. here on the East Coast and 1 p.m. for those of you watching.
It's a fucking witch hunt.
just the justice system working fairly and treating everyone as if they are not above the law.
Still sifting through this 100.
Or executive functions. We can explain why it really falls more on the private activity side. The Supreme Court said, President in his legal challenges.
Presidents are immune from acts they take officially, has now been unsealed. Let's bring in CBS News legal contributor.
Are showing that he had this state of mind because he was told multiple times, not just him, in his.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you got to invest in something that's just long term and don't even bother with it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Something pretty safe. Pretty safe. But I guess they're unsealing some shit to do with election interference, saying Trump knew about it. He still went along with it. They're gonna say whatever. I don't even care. I'm still voting for him. They fucked up so bad, I'll still vote for Trump. Straight up. In my opinion. Because I don't think it was I don't know. When I went to bed, when I stayed up, my ex was like, come on, go to bed, go to bed. He's up so big everywhere. Go to bed. In 2020. I go, hon, they're going to fuck him over. You watch. You really think so? I go, yep, they're going to fuck him over. You watch. He was up big in Georgia. Then all of a sudden, they shut down the fucking polls in Georgia. They shut him down in Philadelphia. They shut him down everywhere. Right after that. He was up by like 10% in every state. Even in some liberal states up here in the Northeast. And then they just fucking stretched it out for longer and longer. And then Sleepy ended up winning certain states that were important by like fucking 10,000 votes. I find it odd. And like people that were mathematicians and do stats and like figures and shit, even they said it's like mathematically impossible. So who the fuck knows what to believe? Who knows what to believe anymore? But I still think we're better off with him than without him. Just because look who he's going up against. I mean, which one do you want to pick? I don't know. I made a lot of money under Trump. I put a lot of money away. So, and I didn't have some crazy job. I always had like blue collar jobs. Whether I was whether I was still fishing offshore, or being a mailman, or doing trade work and shit. I used to do power plant shutdowns. I would do some welding jobs. I could do a lot of shit. I'm capable of doing a lot. So I can drywall. I can do most carpentry. As long as I have someone there to help me. On bigger shit. Build decks. Fucking pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. My body's destroyed from it now, but I wouldn't do a roof anymore, I don't think. Maybe if it was walkable. But I made a lot of money under Trump. I work my regular job and then go do side jobs and fucking... I really did well. There was lots of work available. Now there's none. None. People don't have the money to spend on that shit anyway. I don't see too many people throwing roofs on their house right now. Or putting a deck on or an addition. Look at the price of lumber. It's never going down. Not like it should have. Just like everything else. Oh, please like, share, subscribe to Nate's Live Talk. Thank you for hanging tonight. Looked into some cryptid shit. I'm just looking to see what's going on before we call it a night. Figured I'd shoot the shit with you guys for a few minutes. CBS moderator loses job after forcefully fact-checking J.D. Vance, then cutting his mic during debate. Is that true? Good, fuck him. Douchebag.
Moderators promised us they would take a step back on the fact-checking and let the VP candidates correct each other, but it only took about 25 minutes for us to get this heated moment. Something then immigration. Joe?
When they did, of course, 3 times. And we just talked about this the day before the debate. Will Margaret, fact check?
Yeah, Coppet's rough too. Beats up your fucking hips, your knees. Absolutely. I don't know if that's true. That might have been clickbait. There's so much clickbait bullshit. That's one thing I don't do that I fucking kind of want to do, but I know it's the wrong thing. Ugh. So many people get views off clickbait. But I know how much people hate it. I hate when it happens to me. Click on something and it's not even about what the title was. They should, that's the type of shit they should fuck with YouTubers about. Like, your video is not even about what you're talking about. Not even a little bit of it. But I guess, like, tonight I did cryptids and shit, and now I'm talking about something else, so I could see why that would be a problem. I don't know. Diddy is a mafia boss. I don't know, man. Keep your eye on what's going on in the Middle East and Russia and fucking the ports. The election. A lot of shit going on. I can't believe Biden didn't step in. That was a fuck you to everyone. You guys know that, right? That was a fuck you to everyone. You guys aren't going to let me run? You other guys don't like me? I'm on my way out? Fuck you all. I'm going on vacation. He could have stopped it. He could have made it. He could have went in and implemented a law where it would have gave him an 80-day cooling down period. By law, they would have had to continue to work for 80 more days. And it would have given him time to come up with a contract instead of killing Americans. And I get it. They deserve their money. But they're trying to get 77% more pay. And I know things have gone up. I get it. But 77% more pay? Look what we're paying already. And then you don't want any automation there? You got to have some. You got to have some automation. You got to get that shit out of there. I just think, like, I'm usually for the worker, but you can't be greedy either. It's got to be fair for both parties. You know? And I know people get fucked. I've gotten fucked a lot. I know you guys have. But to fucking 77% raise, that's a little bit steep. I know they said it's over 5 years or whatever, 10 years, something like that, somewhere in that range. But, we got so much shit going on right now. All he had to do was sign a piece of paper and say, you guys got 80 days to extend it. Do you guys realize where 80 days would have got us? It would have got us right up till past Christmas. Cool. Or damn close. Now you got this going on, the election going on, wars going on. And you got Christmas coming and Thanksgiving. It would have brought us to like 4 or 5 days before Christmas if the thing did happen. And then them workers aren't going to want to strike around Christmas. So maybe that's why they didn't. I don't know. They would have had to get a deal done. That's why I don't understand why Biden wouldn't have done it. Didn't do it. You know what I mean? If Biden did that, they would have had to get a deal done because it would have looked really bad on the union to not give these workers their contract before Christmas. These fucking people don't think. You got an average Joe like me that fucking thinks more than the guy that runs the country. It's fucking nuts. And they always say, "Oh, they don't got the power to do this and that." Bullshit. Then why the fuck then why are they the fucking president? I know they can't do everything, but there's a lot of shit they can do. They can make fucking grant people immunities. They can stop things. They can stop things for a little bit until Congress, the House and the Senate vote on it. You bet your ass they can. They can veto shit. They don't do nothing. Not these guys. Not over the last 4 years. So now you got dock workers needing a contract. When you go on strike, you don't get paid the same amount of money. You don't even get paid close to the same amount of money when you're on strike. So these guys are going to be broke in a couple weeks. Probably before then. Because everyone's hurting for money. You know? These guys aren't going to be able to survive on strike pay. Strike pay is fucking a joke. Unless their union's amazing. I know most unions, you don't get paid a whole lot of money when you go on strike. You don't even get a day's pay for being on, like, you don't get paid close to the same. And her fucking, him not doing that with the board, with the, both of them on the border, and then now with this fucking thing with the ports is bad. Biden really should have made them wait another 80 days till they could strike. And I think once they strike, it's too late. Like, he can't do it now, I don't think. It had to happen before the collective bargaining agreement ran out. And the other thing this does that these assholes don't think about is, what about all the truckers that have no work? They can't touch any of those fucking cans that are coming into the ports. Because the union contract says no one can move any of that shit. Whether you like it or not. Because there's going to be a union worker to do it. By law. So, it's going to hurt everyone. Everyone. Everyone, horribly. But these people don't give a fuck, or they don't know. I'm starting to think they're so stupid they don't think. Or they just don't give a fuck. What do you guys think? I would love to hear what other people think. I just find it odd. Never before seen evidence details Trump and campaign's effort to keep power. Well, there was a questionable election. That's what I'm starting to think some ways too. I forget who I was listening to talk about it. Might have been Patrick Bet David. And he said something along those lines too. Like, these people are just, maybe there's some like super rich guy that's really just like a super villain. I don't know. Makes me wonder. It's just what they're saying on a It's just what they're saying for a title of a video. Repeated bombshells. Never before seen evidence details Trump and campaign's effort to keep power. From MSNBC. I'm not even going to look into it. I think it's a total bunch of shit. I don't even care anymore. I don't care what, like, if I do a video tomorrow about politics, or we look into anything, I'm going to have to hear that 800 times like I give a shit. I don't. Unless he really hurt someone really bad and did something like that, like, and it was proven for sure, like from some detestable shit, that would be the only way I couldn't vote for him. And I would vote for his replacement. Like, if something happened where Trump can't run, then I'm voting for JD Vance. That's another thing. I mean, people really seem to like JD Vance after last night too. People really seem to like him. Like, he's getting a lot of fucking props today, even from some lefties. He might have a bright future in politics. Good night, Crispy. Yeah, very well could end up being a future president if they don't play him. Oh. Oof. Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I don't know what to believe, man. They lie about him. It's been so skewed for so long. So there's a bunch of shit going on we got to keep our eye on. Man, it's getting cold where I live. It's about 45, maybe 50 degrees tonight. It's getting chilly. It's getting cold quick. I hope it's not a cold winter with everything else going on. The fucking heating bill will be through the roof. I don't know where you guys live, but man, it gets fucking cold up here. That bill goes through the roof. Thank God we don't have oil. Thank God I got natural gas, but people that have oil are going to get butchered. Absolutely butchered. $35 in Washington? Wow. Yeah, I would love to get a wood fireplace. I would love one. Would love one. Cryptids, you gotta look it up. It's like Bigfoot. Shit like Bigfoot. We already looked into it. You have to watch underneath Nate's Live Talk lives. We're done doing research for the night. We're just talking. Having a cigarette before bed. Oh. What's up, Reggie? Sorry, Petmo. I'm going to get off in about 5 minutes. You can go back and watch it if you want. We looked into Wolfman, Dogman, and we looked into Point Pleasant, Mothman. Oh, shit. People are wilding out tonight. I heard banging and yelling all night long. Night, Tommy. Love you, buddy. Fucking crickets are still out like crazy. Good night, Angel. I had something else weird happen. I have plants and flowers growing right now that shouldn't be growing, that already have grown in April, and they're coming back in the fall. I can't believe it. I'll show you guys tomorrow if I remember. So weird. Shouldn't be having certain types of things growing this time of year, and they are. Makes me wonder what the fuck's going on. Like shit that never grows this time of year. Never. Not here anyway. I'm going to research it tomorrow and see if it's something that I don't know about before I rush to conclusions. But yeah, there's a couple things growing that shouldn't be growing this time of year. Very odd. I don't know if it's because we didn't get a lot of rain this summer for parts of it. Or the end of the summer we didn't. Actually, we got rain. At the beginning half of summer, we got a lot of rain. The first half of the year, we got dumped on. And then after July, we didn't get a ton of rain at all. Pretty much none. Yeah, it's been like that here too lately. Like we haven't gotten snow like we normally do in quite a few years. I don't know if they're fucking with the weather or what. I don't know if they're manipulating it. I don't think it's global warming. I'm not sold on global warming being as bad as they say it is. I'm sure there's some of it, but I don't think it's to the degree they push it. I'm not disclosing where I live. I don't disclose where I live. Please don't ask. I mean, if you can't tell by my accent. You got to be a little bit da-da-da-da. But that's all I got tonight. I love you guys. I'll catch you tomorrow. Guys, get some rest. Have a great night. Please like, share, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.